Rev up your engines!
Well, the saga of bad quality control at GM goes on. Chevy Equinox and GMC Terrain are being recalled because the seats may fly off. They're not bolted together right. They weren't built right. And it's the driver's seat, the guy who's controlling the car, right? This all started because Sonny was checking out one of the cars for quality control, and they say, and I quote, you can't make this up, a driver's seat frame height adjusted pivot bolt was found on the floor. They can't even bolt seats together right. That's how low their quality is. Now, these are loose or strip bolts in the power seat frames that are built by a company called Camry in Mexico. Yes, it is in Mexico. You start making stuff down there, you're just asking for trouble. Now, these things were built in June and July 2022. They're not very old, right? Imagine what happens to these things when they get old. They're built this badly to begin with. Imagine what's going to happen as you drive them down the road. I get more feedback from people who buy GMC vehicles. One guy just sent me one. He said, I had an avalanche. Kept falling apart. I said, the heck with it. I got lucky. I traded it in and got myself a 4-year-old Toyota 4Runner, and I love the 4Runner. Thanks for the advice, Scotty. That's what he told me, right? Well, it's the truth. They make them like crap. They don't stand behind them. They try to hide from all the problems that they have. In this case, they can't. When the bolt falls off, it's sitting in the back seat. Well, gee, something's wrong with how we built these things. And, of course, the frame came from Mexico. Now, yeah, they're building these Equinox cheaper. They're priced at $26,300, which is cheap for a vehicle of that size, right? But unfortunately, they're cheaply made. A lot of the parts are made in Mexico. The quality isn't there. You keep cutting what you pay the workers. The quality of the work is going to go down. And then, of course, it's a big corporation. If we use a little bit cheaper bolt, hey, it will save all this money. So let's do that instead. And then what do you end up with? The mess that GM is in. Vehicles that fall apart and people say, gee, I'll never buy another one of those things. Goodbye. Now, here's a woman who got lucky and then she sent me an email. Her name's Allison Dean. She says, I recently traded my 2013 Dodge Dart for a 2004 Highlander. The people wanted to trade the Highlander in for a smaller car, so I went to look at it. And yeah, it had a little exhaust leak we got fixed, but I love the Toyota. Thanks for your videos. They made me trade in that Dodge Dart. I think it was a wise decision. Yeah, I think it was a really wise decision too, because your Dodge Dart is really just a Fiat. Most of those parts are all Fiat Italian crap. The modern Dodge Dart had nothing to do with the original Dodge Dart that was either an economy car, some of them had V8s, and they were muscle cars, people would soup them up, right? No, it was a rebadged Fiat piece of crap. They don't make them anymore. Fiat and Chrysler, that was a giant disaster waiting to happen. Then they merged and it was a disaster. Now it's part of Stellantis, yet another disaster. But you were smart to get rid of that Dart. Try getting parts of that thing in the future. They don't make them anymore. Italian crap that falls apart. That was a very smart move. Yeah, you got an older Toyota, but it still probably outlets that Dodge 10 or 20 years. You're lucky the Dart was still going, And it was a smart move to get rid of the stupid thing. There's another one you have to see to believe. Rivian Electric Car Truck Company is not charging customers for towing, even for warranty work. Until recently, it towed the cars to their service centers free for warranty work, right? But it was costing them too much money because Rivian's tiny. There are hardly any dealerships out there, right? So if somebody's car broke in, they're electric cars, so when they break, they're not going to go anywhere. You got to fix them, so they got to be towed a long way. And one guy says, hey, I'm 300 miles from the nearest center. And he said, it's going to cost me thousands to have that thing towed over there. They used to tow them for free under warranty, but they don't anymore. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Rivian ends up going under. It's had so many BS deals. Ford said, oh, we're going to use your skateboard platforms to make our electric trucks. No, they didn't. They built their F-150 Lightning themselves. They didn't use any Rivian parts on it. Rivian is just... They haven't made any vehicles. Their stock is going down the toilet. Now they're saying, well, we're not going to tow your warranty work. You got to pay for the tow yourself. That is unheard of. They sell you a vehicle for all that money, and then you got to pay to tow it in for warranty work. So the company is now charging $55 towing plus $6.50 a mile. Well, imagine a guy who's 300 miles away to the nearest service center, because there aren't that many Rivian service centers, right? It's going to cost the guy almost $2,000 to tow the stupid thing. This is why I tell people, don't buy cars from companies that haven't been around. Don't go out and buy an electric car yet. They're not perfected. And they certainly aren't that good at fixing them either. I've seen people wait 3-4 months to get parts for their electric cars to get them fixed. The companies aren't set up. Take Tesla. He's not set up for fixing them. He just builds them and sells them. After that, it's pot luck if you can get them fixed anywhere, right? Same thing with Rivian. You know, they used to tow them free. I guess it was costing them too much money because they were breaking all the time. Now they say, well, you got to pay to tow it to us. Too bad. That's the way it goes. What a horrible company. Hey, take my advice. Don't buy a Rivian. Don't waste your money on one. Frank1010 says, my Camry jerks at low speeds. 2010 Camry, 2.5 liter. The RPM goes up and down between 2,200 and 25. What's the problem? Is it a transmission issue? Well, let's pray it isn't. Sometimes it is. But what you want to do, check the spark plugs, air filter, fuel filter, see if any of them are clogged. Have a mechanic like me scan it, see if there's any codes or any bad data. Right? Start there. I have seen some of the 2010 Camry transmissions go out. Unfortunately, that was kind of an oddball year, and I have seen some go out. And if it is the transmission going out, you got 113,000 miles. You got to decide how much money you want to spend on this thing. I've had people attempt to get those fixed, and the transmission shop said, sorry, we can't do it. That particular transmission, we don't have the parts, the experience, we don't rebuild them. That you're either going to do like one of my customers did in Houston. He had a used one installed. Of course, that's pot luck, you know. You want to take pot luck with a used transmission. I personally wouldn't because who knows, you know. Hey, you say it jerks sometimes at certain speeds. But is the transmission going out? Go to Carvana or something. They don't even road test them. They'll give you money for it and get rid of it and get another car because you can't really get those things fixed without spending a small fortune. I know a guy who actually had one rebuilt by a pro who knew what he was doing. It cost him $6,500. Do you want to spend that kind of money? Probably not. And you still have to find somebody who knew what he was doing and do it right. And usually the warranty on a rebuilt transmission is 1 or 2 years max. So I personally wouldn't. But check all the other stuff first. Spark plugs, air filter, fuel filter. Have a guy look at the data. But if a guy like me checks it and says, yeah, it's the tranny starting to go out, my advice is just get rid of it. Get something else because that happens to you a year that's going to cost a fortune to fix when they go bad. Geo Babe says, I'm a new driver. I want a Jeep Wrangler. By doing research, and people said they're bad for daily driving, gas guzzlers, and not good on highways and pricing. Is there any way I could get an affordable Jeep Wrangler? It's good on gas and good for daily driving. Well, perhaps move to another dimension where they're well made and they get good gas mileage. Those are Jeepy vehicles. The original Jeep, of course, was general purpose, and the Army guys are lazy, so they just call them GPs Jeep. They've always been gas hogs. They're high up in the air. They have big knobby tires. You can't get good gas mileage with those things. Now, there are some out there that you can get diesel engines in now. But unfortunately, diesel engines are made by the Italians. Fiat bought Chrysler, and they put a bunch of Italian diesel engines in them, and they're crap. First 2 generations are absolute garbage. They're on the 3rd generation now, and it's iffy. Nobody knows if it's going to work or not. They get better gas mileage. Not great, but better than the gasoline ones. On top of what you said, they cost a lot of money. They get crappy gas mileage. They also fall apart as they age. The quality control of them has turned into garbage. The old Jeeps, you go back in the 60s, 70s, they're pretty reliable vehicles. All gas hogs, mind you. I would say the last good Jeep was when Mercedes owned Chrysler, and they called them Daimler Chrysler. And the Jeeps were actually better made then. But when Fiat took over, Jeep started taking a nosedive, and now they're all Stellantis, Chrysler, Fiat, and Peugeot, Stellantis, which I call the 3 stooges of automotive engineering. I would not buy one. Look at something else. You want to get a vehicle like that, see if you like any of the Toyotas that are out there. You're going to pay a little bit more, but they run forever. But no matter what, if you want a vehicle like that, you're going to get crap gas mileage. That's just how it goes. Wind resistance, they're big, they're tall, they're boxy. You can't get good gas mileage with those things. Robbie says, are copper nickel-based brake lines better than OEM steel brake lines? I have an '07 Mercedes. I'm in New Jersey. The steel lines are corroded. This one doesn't cover under the recall. What do you feel about copper nickel lines instead of the OEM ones? They're supposed to be dot-approved. Yes, you can. Now, here's the thing. You go back in the past, some guys would put copper lines on the brake lines, and that's illegal because copper is pretty ductile. You know, you can grab copper and bend it easily, and they will stretch over time. And they won't work that good. They were illegal. But once they made copper nickel lines, they added nickel to the copper, which made it harder. And of course, it's also anti-corrosion resistant. Better lines, there's no arguing that. You want to go through the trouble of putting copper nickel lines, go ahead. In the past, if you put copper ones on, they would work, but technically you're breaking the law. But the copper nickel ones are DOT proof. I know guys that have used them for years, and they said, yeah, the copper nickel ones are, but not pure copper ones. So go right ahead if you don't mind putting them on. It's not going to be cheap. They're relatively expensive lines, but of course they'll probably last forever then. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.